Thank you for your testimony. Ambassador Satterfield, I guess some people, when they think about our strategy, might question the idea of our strategy. You know, if your son was shooting off his pistol in the backyard and doing it indiscriminately and endangering the neighbors, would you give him more bullets or less? And we see the Saudis acting in an indiscriminate manner. They've bombed funeral processions. They've killed a lot of civilians. And so our strategy is to give them more bombs, not less. And we say, well, if we don't give them the bomb, somebody else will. And that's sort of this global strategy that many in the bipartisan foreign policy consensus have. We have to always be involved. We always have to provide weapons, or someone else will, and they'll act even worse. But there's, I guess, a lot of examples that doesn't seem to be improving their behavior. You can argue it's marginally better since we've been giving them more weapons, but it seems the opposite of logic. You would think you would give people less, or you might withhold aid or withhold assistance to the Saudis to get them to behave. But we do sort of the opposite. We give them more aid. What would your response be to that?
Senator, when I noted in my remarks that progress had been made on this issue of targeting, minimizing, or mitigating civilian casualties, that phrase was carefully chosen. And to elaborate further on my colleague's remarks, Robert Karam, we do work with the Saudis and have, particularly over the last 6 to 9 months, worked intensively on the types of munitions the Saudis are using, how they are using, how to discriminate target sets, how to assure, through increased loiter time by aircraft, that the targets sought are indeed clear of collateral or civilian damage. This is new. This is not the type of interaction that we had with the Saudis during the time when those horrific...
And yet the overall situation in Yemen is a disaster.
The overall situation is extremely bad,
right.
Senator.
So I guess that's really my question. We ought to rethink, and I think from a common sense point of view, a lot of people would question giving people who misbehave more weapons instead of giving them less. On another question, which I think is a broad question about, you know, what we are doing in the Middle East in general, you admitted that there's not really a military solution in Yemen. Most people say it's going to be a political solution. The Houthis will still remain. We're not going to have Hiroshima. We're not going to have unconditional surrender and the good guys win and the bad guys are vanquished. Same with Syria. Most people have said for years, both the Obama administration and this administration, probably even the Bush administration, this situation will probably be a political solution. They will no longer, it's not going to be complete vanquishment of the enemy. We're also saying that in Afghanistan. And I guess my point as I think about that is I think about the recruiter at the station in Omaha, Nebraska, trying to get somebody to sign up for the military and saying, please join. We're going to send you to 3 different wars where there is no military solution. We're hoping to make it maybe a little bit better. I think back to Vietnam. Oh, we're going to take one more village. If we take one more village, they're going to negotiate, and we'll get a little bit better negotiation. I just can't see sending our young men and women to die for that, for one more village. You know, the Taliban have 40% in Afghanistan. What are we going to get? When they get to 30%, they'll negotiate, and it'll have been worth it for the people who have to go in and die and take those villages. I don't think it's one more life. I don't think it's worth one more life. The war in Yemen's not ours. We talk all about the Iranians have launched hundreds of missiles. Well, yeah, and the Saudis have launched 16,000 attacks. Who started it? It's a little bit murky back and forth. The Houthis may have started taking over their government, but that was a civil war. Now we're involved in it. Who are the good guys? Are the Saudis the good guys? Are the others the bad guys? Thousands of civilians are dying. 17 million people live on the edge of starvation. I think we need to rethink whether or not military intervention, supplying the Saudis with weapons, whether all of this makes any sense at all, or whether we've made the situation worse. I mean, humanitarian crisis, we're talking about, oh, we're going to give them money. The Saudis are giving them money, and I'm like, okay, so we bomb the crap out of them, then the Saudis give them $1 billion. Maybe we could bomb less. Maybe part of the humanitarian answer is supplying less weapons to a war. There's a huge arms race going on. Why do the Iranians do what they do? They're evil. Well, or maybe they're responding to the Saudis. Who responded first? Who started it? Where did the arms race start? But if we sell $300 billion of weapons to Saudi Arabia, what are the Iranians going to do? They react. It's action and reaction throughout the Middle East. And so we paint the Iranians as these evil monster, and we just have to correct the evil monster. But the world's a much more complicated place, back and forth. And all I would ask is that we try to get outside our mindset that what we're doing is working, because I think what we're doing hasn't worked, and we've made a lot of things worse, and we're partly responsible for the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Like making a small speech.